Good morning, everybody. My name is Lily, and today I will be presenting on Carole Pateman, a groundbreaking feminist, political theorist who reshaped how we think about laws, justice, and democracy today. Carole Pateman was born on December 11, 1940, in Maresfield, Sussex, London, England. In her early years, she studied at the University of Oxford, where she received a diploma in political science and economics. She was offered a place at Lady Margaret Hall, Oxford, where she then obtained a bachelor's and doctor of philosophy. She is well known for her contributions to democratic and feminist political theory. She was the first woman president of the International Political Science Association. She's most famous for arguing the way we think about governments and law. She has written 8 books, such as The Participation and Democratic Theory, 1970, The Problem of Political Obligations, 1985, The Disorder of Women, 1989, and The Sexual Contract, as well as many others that have shifted people's views of society. What is true justice in her eyes? Carole believes and argues that true justice goes far beyond formal equality. It requires addressing power imbalances that make women lower in political and social systems. As she states, women are subject to the contract, not parties to it. Carole strongly believes that equal rights on paper are insufficient if power structures remain unchanged. She sees justice not just as abstract equality or formal rights, but as freedom, participation, and equality in relationships. Carole also speaks about how justice involves seeing women fully as political equals, meaning they have social recognition equivalent to men. This includes full control over their body, labor, and personal autonomy. In an interview about basic income, Carole Pateman states, "With something like a basic income, women could be assured of a reasonable standard of living in the same way men are." Finally, we'd start to talk about equal citizenship. Now let's talk about how Carole views the purpose of law. Carole Pateman argues that the law is built upon a sexual contract, which gives men political and legal power over women. She claims that through legal structures, law does not simply regulate society, but helps institutionalize patriarchy, transforming male natural rights into civil patriarchal rights. She critiques classical social contracts theory for ignoring how women were excluded from the original contract, though legal and political systems still require women. Now let's talk about what the legal system should be doing according to Carole. The legal system should challenge contracts that commodify people, especially women, such as prostitutes. She also suggests moving beyond them, which could help to achieve truly free social order. She also suggests to promote real inclusion of women as equal political and legal subjects. The law should help create conditions for real participation, especially for those who've historically been excluded, such as women and the working class. Now let's talk about what school of thought this best fits under. The legal school of thought that best fits Carole Pateman's work is the critical legal theory. Carole sees laws not as neutral, but as systems that reflect social power. She believes these systems, like the laws, have biases against women, making them unfair. This is mainly what her work focuses on. Let's now shift our focus to quotes that Carole has made over the years based on her philosophy. The most dramatic example of the public aspect of the patriarchal right is the men demand that women's bodies are for sale as commodities. In the capitalist market, prostitution is a major capitalist industry. This quote highlights how the law and capitalism help maintain that power imbalance. Quote number 2. The original pact is a sexual as well as social contract. It is sexual in the sense of patriarchal, that is, that contract established men's political rights over women, and also sexual in the sense of establishing orderly access by men to women's bodies. This quote helps to draw attention to the topic. It allows others to understand consent better and promote feminist activism. Carole wants us to see that society was set up in a way that allowed men to control women, especially when it comes to their body, sexuality, and roles in a family life. Quote number 3. Under covenanture, a wife was required to live where her husband demanded her. Her earnings belonged to her husband, and her children were the property of her husband. Just as the children of the female slave belonged to her master, But perhaps the most graphic illustration of the continuity between slaves and marriage was that in England, as Thomas Hardy, the mayor of Casterbridge, reminded us, wives could be sold at public auctions. In this quote, Carole compares this to slavery to highlight how women were treated as property, not as free individuals. Now let's talk about the contributions she has made. Firstly, The Sexual Contract, 1988. In the book, Carole Pateman writes, the modern legal and political systems are not based solely on freedom and equality, as the social contract says. This book has a huge impact because it challenges foundations of Western political and legal theory. It even became a core text in feminist legal theory, critical legal studies, and political philosophy. Secondly, the critique of liberal citizenship and inclusion. Carole Pateman argued that the traditional idea of citizenship and democracy are based on male experiences, excluding women by defining them primarily through their roles in private sphere. She challenged the public/private divide where laws govern public life but ignore gender inequalities in private life. This was extremely important because it helped uncover hidden gender biases. The third contribution she made was the Participation and Democratic Theory, 1970. Carole Pateman argued for genuine democratic participation, not just formal voting or representation. She promoted participatory democracy where citizens have real power in political and workplace decisions. This book helped shift the conversation from just voting and elections to the quality and depth of democratic life. Finally, let's talk about major criticism against this philosopher. Some scholars argue that Carole Pateman's analysis treats women as a single unified group and doesn't account for differences in race, class, sexuality, and global context. Critics from queer communities and trans studies argue that her work doesn't fully account for non-binary identities, queer relationships, or change gender roles. Mainly point out that they have a strong male and female power binary that can oversimplify how power operates in different relationships. Overall, Carole Pateman's work helps us see how the law often upholds inequalities. Her ideas are especially useful in tracking legal issues like gender-based violence, sex work, and unequal citizenship. She challenges us to rethink justice as more than legal rights. It's about changing the structure that limits true freedom and equality. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.